Welcome to Yellow Cat Training for the Humane Society of Sedona. This training will safely guide you on how to socialize cats with more specific needs. We will go over some specific behavior terms first, and I'll go over each one individually. Please note that these behavior terms and their definitions are listed in the cat area for your reference. A lot of times when we're talking about behavior, we generally talk in terms of shy versus scared. There is a small difference between the two labels. Labeling a cat as shy means the cat is a little timid but mainly relaxed and comfortable. They may allow interaction, pets, playing, and socialization, but choose to still hide or only come out for small periods of time. You would still go slow with your movements, but please realize that a shy cat still may not want to be pet or interact with you in that moment, and we must make sure they are consenting to any interaction you are offering. Talking, slow blinks, or reading to them may be the best interaction at first while you build that trust. Labeling a cat as scared means that the cat is frightened and on guard. They do not yet feel safe or confident in their environment. They may hide, try to escape any interaction, swat, hiss, spit, or pounce. They may not want to be pet, played with, or even bothered. Extra caution and patience is needed. When a cat is still in the scared phase, petting and playing may not be an option until the cat feels more confident and trusting of humans. Try talking, slow blinks, or reading to them. The next behavior term we use is handling. Some cats have specific areas on their bodies they don't like to be touched, while others enjoy being pet all over. It's safe to say that most cats do not enjoy having their belly rubbed, while some certainly do. The safest place to pet cats are on their cheeks and under their chin. We never pick cats up, only as a last resort, unless okayed by staff. In other words, we know they enjoy being held. Manipulating a cat's body without their consent can make them untrusting and fearful. It can also overstimulate them and cause them to act out. We will usually note on the behavior board areas a cat absolutely does not want to be touched or certain preferences. The next behavior term we use is called cat to cat. Cat to cat means that this particular kitty doesn't like other cats or can be a bit submissive, defensive, or aggressive towards other cats. We will note specifics in their behavior notes as there are variables. Some cats cannot be with other cats ever as they have shown extreme aggression towards other kitties, while some cats have minor issues with other cats. Hissing and mild swatting is not extreme aggression. Hissing and swatting is normal cat behavior and how they communicate. We never leave two cats who do not get along or know each other alone. We always monitor and note behavior. You will hear us use swatty a lot and bitey not so much. Swatty means that the kitty can swat, sometimes with interaction and sometimes without warning. We will detail circumstances around swatting in their behavior notes and how to proceed safely. Bitey can mean that the cats bite in defensiveness or playfulness. If we have a cat who has bitten in defensiveness, they will have a very detailed behavior protocol to follow with an improved volunteer team only. But some cats nibble here and there in playfulness, not biting hard. This and the circumstances surrounding the playful nibbles would be noted in their behavior notes. Lastly, we use overstimulated as a behavior term. At times, cats can get overstimulated, which means they feel overwhelmed in a specific situation and may lash out by swatting, biting, hissing, or escaping. It's important to read a cat's body language and to prevent overstimulation and subsequent behavior. Cats can be intensely playing and having fun 1 minute and then become overstimulated the next. We will note specifics for each cat in their behavior notes and how to prevent overstimulation and the subsequent behaviors. Before working with any cat, we always want to check their behavior notes or protocols before we begin any socialization. Typically, we introduce ourselves to cats using our index finger, but that may not be appropriate for every single cat. Since yellow cats have different needs than blue cats, you may have to vary how you introduce yourself. Since the index finger might not be appropriate for them, you may want to start with introducing play, talking softly, or perhaps reading to them, or offering treats away from their face and mouth. Our philosophy here is we never use negative reinforcement on the cats. We speak calmly and we never raise our voice. We never ever spray cats with water or use any sort of water to correct behavior. We give cats space and we never chase them or corner them. The majority of times when a cat actually does bite someone, it's typically when the human reaches into an enclosure. So never ever reach into a hide box or cubby hole where a cat is hiding. Sometimes in the behavior notes, we will put that the cat likes to be pet in their hide box. But please, please first introduce yourself and build a rapport with the cat before you go reaching into their hiding spot. We need to build that trust with the cat before we reach into their space and invade it. A lot of people assume that good socializing is hands-on petting, when that's not always the case. We can do a lot of non-invasive techniques for greeting a cat and building a rapport with them. We do these non-invasive techniques from a distance and, if possible, at their eye level and not towering over them. One of these techniques is called the slow blink. This is a way to tell a cat that you are not a threat. You slowly close your eyes, hold them closed for 1 or 2 seconds, and then open them slowly again. It's also a way to tell your cat, I love you, and they're able to return the slow blink to you, which means they're feeling much more comfortable around you. I'm going to show you the slow blink technique with a kitten named Georgie. Georgie came in as a stray and was a pretty wild kitten. He didn't like to be pet. He would play a little bit, but he would hiss a lot. So I started with just simply giving him slow blinks, letting him know I was not a threat, and this is how you know you're getting the slow blinks back. Hi, Georgie. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Very nice. You give me the love look. Thank you. Oh, thank you, honey. Thank you. The slow blinks are important because a cat who feels threatened will not close their eyes. They're going to be on guard and their eyes are going to be really big. If their eyes are closed, that means they're feeling really comfortable with you and they feel safe. Another great non-invasive technique for greeting a cat is through play. Again, handling and petting a cat isn't always going to be the best way to socialize a cat. If you engage them in play, you're letting them know that you're fun and you're safe and you're not having a lot of expectations on them. This is also a great way to engage a cat who is hiding because again, we don't want to reach in and invade their space. The video I will show you is of Aries, and he is actually a cat who did bite someone when they reached into their cubbyhole. So I'm going to show you a more appropriate way to engage Aries when he's in his cubby. Oh goodness. Boop. Boop. That's a good, that's a good boy. That's a good boy. You like holding it in your mouth? Huh? Hi, pretty. Hi. What do you think? So for a cat like Aries, who does have 2 bites on his record, introducing yourself through play is a great start. You are showing him that you can be trusted because you're not invading his space. You're pairing yourself with something that he really enjoys without a lot of expectations. Another non-invasive technique for greeting a cat is offering something like the tip of your glasses for them to investigate your scent. This is just another way to introduce yourself without actually petting the cat. In this video, we have Simon, who was a stray cat that was brought in, who was very, very frightened. He did not want to be pet or touched, and he really didn't want to play either. So I did offer my glasses, and he did actually go over and smell them. Please take note of Simon's behavior and demeanor. He is a perfect example of what a scared cat looks like. Later on, I will show you Missy, and she's the perfect example of what a shy cat looks like.
That's a good boy. Good boy. Good.
A couple things to note. I made sure that Simon was not super swatty. I would not have taken my hand that close to him, though I am keeping a pretty safe distance from his face with my glasses. I'm also slowly removing my glasses. I want my movements to be very intentional and also predictable. Another technique is using a string toy wand to pet the cat at a safe distance, focusing on their cheeks or under their chin. This technique is really only used for very special circumstances, and the video I'll show you is again of Simon. The reason why we're using this technique with Simon is we're very unclear about his current behavior. We weren't sure if he was really scared, if he was really aggressive, so we want to kind of test if he's okay with touch without putting our fingers and hands at risk.
That's a good baby. Yush. Yush.
It's really difficult to see in this video, but before, Simon's pupils were really big and his ears were really flat. Once I started petting him with the stick, his ears slightly went up and his eyes really relaxed, which told me he was okay with this interaction. Now, if he stiffened or moved away, I would immediately stop. Continuing on with the non-invasive techniques for greeting a cat, another thing to do is you can simply offer treats or maybe even a little bit of food in a Kong. The idea is you're pairing yourself with things that they really like. This way they'll associate really good things with humans. So just sitting down and talking to the cat, reading to the cat, allowing them to feel you in their presence, laying down near them on your back or your stomach or your side, giving them slow blinks, is all positive reinforcement and pairing. We use pairing quite often in the shelter environment. Pairing is to encourage positive interaction and trust and to decrease the likelihood of undesired behaviors. We build rapport through what we call pairing. This entails pairing ourselves with reinforcing items and activities. In other words, we're teaching cats to associate humans with things that they really enjoy or like. Here is an example of a non-invasive pairing technique. This video is of Missy, who is not a scared cat, but a shy cat. You can see that she's quite comfortable in her environment, even when I lift up the blankets of her hide spot. So here I am pairing myself with treats without having any expectations from her, simply sitting with her and giving her treats, and you'll see how she reacts.
Good girl. Good girl. Nice job, girlie. Good girl. Good girl. Hi, pretty. Oh, good.
You'll notice in the video that I'm giving Missy treats without demanding any expectations from her. All I'm looking for is for her to feel more comfortable with me in her space. You'll notice that I gradually move the treats further away so she has to venture a little bit further out of her hide spot. I also use my hand so she has to take the treat directly from my hand. Now, if she did not take the treat from my hand, I would have immediately dropped the treat for her to have. Again, I don't want to put a lot of expectations on her during this pairing process. Just after a couple minutes of giving her treats, she chooses to come out of her hiding spot on her own without me having to force or do anything invasive. Another video example of pairing yourself with treats. It's a little more invasive than the last video. In this video, I've already spent several days with Georgie building a rapport. The next step is pairing myself petting him with giving him treats. The expectation is 5 seconds of petting and he'll get a treat.
Good boy. Good boy. Good boy. Good boy. Good boy. Nice boy.
Reinforcement needs to be given immediately after the stimulus. The stimulus is me petting him. So I pet him for 5 to 6 seconds and then I immediately give the reinforcement, which is the treat. This is teaching Georgie to associate humans with positive things. In other words, when humans are around, you get something you really like, treats. And of course, every cat is different, so you may need to try a variety of things, and sometimes you'll go in and this thing that you're doing really works, and then the next day it might not work. So you have to be really flexible and creative. So let's talk about consent. Cats and animals in general lack basic control of their daily lives and environment. Most things are decided for them, and without control, they can feel helpless, vulnerable, and frightened. Allowing them to have control over their own bodies and allowing them to have control over whether they are touched is incredibly vital for their well-being, their ability to trust, and their ability to predict their environment and surroundings. So how do we get consent from an animal who doesn't speak our language? With animals, you're looking for non-verbal cues, or what I like to call green lights or consent for interaction. This is why we use the index finger greeting. This allows the cat to decide if they want the interaction or not. We're not forcing a touch on them or a pet. We're simply extending our finger and seeing if they give us a green light. Sometimes consent is simply being predictable with our movements and actions. It's verbally telling them our intentions and following through with them. We never want to pick cats up or manipulate their bodies. Again, we need to be predictable with our movements and actions. We need to allow cats to communicate in the way that they know how, and that means swatting, hissing, backing away, or escaping. Now, we're not going to reward that behavior, but we're certainly not going to use any sort of negative reinforcement. This is how cats communicate, and this is how we learn what they don't and do like. A little later, I will explain how to respond to this undesired behavior. Consent is so important in order for cats to trust us. Consent is also important in order to prevent behaviors. When an animal bites at the shelter, they are put on a 10-day quarantine, which means 10 days where they're not available for adoption. 99% of the time, when an animal bites, it's because of human error. So we need to do our best to prevent bites from happening, not only because they go on quarantine, but it also slows down the process of them finding a loving home. It also slows down their socialization because when they're on quarantine, they're only allowed to be socialized by staff. So getting that consent is really important in order to prevent undesired behaviors. We would never force a cat to do something they wouldn't want to do. So we would never forcefully hold cats or use a technique called flooding. Flooding is a behavioral exposure technique where you desensitize someone by quote-unquote flooding them with something that they do not like. For example, if someone was claustrophobic, a flooding technique would be locking them in a box. Or if someone was afraid of water, a flooding technique would be throwing them in a pool, which sounds pretty terrible to me. So likewise, we would never flood a cat with something they don't like, for example, forcefully holding them. I want to share 2 videos of 2 separate kittens that we did get in. They were considered semi-feral, so they were extremely scared and were exhibiting some aggressive behaviors. I just want to show you how much progress you can make simply using non-invasive techniques. The first video is of a little kitten named Charlie who came to us as a stray and seemed very feral to us. So we simply started just playing with her, and at first she did not want to play at all. She would really just hiss and was almost frightened of the toy. This video will show you a before and after, and the before and after is literally just a week apart.
Oh my darling, you're growing up to be so strong, to be so strong. Oh my darling, you're growing up to be so strong, to be so strong. Take your medicine, head down the road. It don't matter where we go.
So just engaging Charlie in play allowed her to trust us and to also pair something she really liked with humans. That simple. The next video is of a kitten named Taylor. Very similar situation as Charlie.
It's okay. Ooh, it's okay.
And a man that said dreams don't last, never slept in tall green grass. And a man that said, there's time in the tall green grass. Just some time in the tall green grass. Just some time in the tall green grass. With you.
These videos are perfect examples of being patient and consistent with non-invasive techniques. This is why socializing is so important. This is how we get cats into loving homes. When it comes to behavior, preventing unwanted behavior is so much easier than correcting unwanted behavior. Once the behavior already has happened, it's really important how we respond to that behavior, because our response is either going to reinforce the behavior or extinguish the behavior, meaning stopping the behavior. Our response to behavior can be quite confusing, and we need to be really, really consistent with it. So it's much easier to learn a cat's triggers and body language in order to prevent the unwanted behavior from happening in the first place. Part of preventing behavior is setting up a cat for success. So if we want to prevent a behavior like swatting, we want to give them enough space to escape. We want to offer them things instead of forcing them. We need to be super flexible, and we also need to vary our techniques. We need to really know their body language and stop before they get overstimulated. So that means we need to take note of their cues. Is their tail flicking? Are they starting to squint their eyes? Are their ears going back? Noticing those cues enables us to stop what we're doing, step away, and give them some space before the behavior comes out. We really need to go at their pace, and we absolutely need to allow them to hide. I think a lot of people think that a hiding cat is a sad cat, and that's not always the case. Dealing with and responding to behaviors can get quite complicated, but the most basic response to behaviors is ignore undesired behavior and reinforce desired behavior. For example, if a cat swats you while you're petting them, stop petting, slowly remove your hand, wait 3 to 4 seconds, and then verbally praise them for sitting calmly. You also want to take note on what happened during that interaction to cause that swat so you can prevent that behavior in the future. Because again, preventing the behavior is so much easier than responding to an undesired behavior. In this next video, we have a cat named Jojo who was pretty shy when he first came in, but started to come around, walk around, allow interaction, allow petting, and you'll see how I responded to him lightly swatting my finger.
Hi, Jojo. What do you do? Oh, are you making biscuits? Good boy, making biscuits. Good boy. Jojo. Good boy. Nice boy, you were gentle. Good job, buddy.
You'll notice in this clip, once he was sitting calmly, I did reach my finger out again to try to get some sort of interaction. You always want to end on a good note. He sniffed my finger, and then when I went to pet him, he backed away. And that's a very appropriate behavior, and I rewarded him verbally for doing that. He did not swat me, he did not bite me, he simply backed away. We do want to reward that behavior. Now, going back in with your finger is not always going to be the best scenario, but because JoJo's swat was rather light, I went in and tried again. Otherwise, I would have just left it on him sitting quietly and me verbally praising him. One of the last things I wanted to talk about was our philosophy about being cage-free as possible. This means we do everything in our power to not lock cats in their condos all day long. Confinement can be really stressful, so we want to avoid it if possible. In order to do that, we need to properly introduce cats and make sure everyone is happy and safe. Of course, we're always going to have cats who don't get along and need to be separate. It's okay for cats to stay in their condo, and actually some cats do prefer to stay in their condo. So we would never force cats out of their condo or lock them out of their condo. We do our best to prioritize cats who don't get along with others to have their own room. So the back cat area can be more of a community area and all condo doors left open. Even if a cat doesn't want to leave their condo, sometimes just leaving the door open makes a huge difference. But we always want to use the condo door that opens up to the litter box and never use the condo door that has their food and water. We want them to always have access to their food and water, and that's not always possible if the door is open. When I first started with the shelter, we locked all the cats in their condos and we would only let one out at a time. But after doing extensive research on illness with cats, I realized that stress was the #1 factor for illnesses like URI or upper respiratory infections. So we decided to play with the idea of having a more cage-free environment, and the results were actually pretty surprising. Before, we had URI quite often. Once we switched to a more cage-free environment, our URI rates went down dramatically because the stress went down dramatically. Not only that, another side effect was cats became more adoptable. Because the majority of people already have cats at home and they're looking to add another cat. So if we know a cat gets along with other cats, that just makes them that much more adoptable. Likewise, it lessens return rates. This way, we know in advance if a cat gets along with other cats instead of having people bring home a cat who doesn't like other cats and then has to return them, which can be stressful and sad for everyone involved. So the back cat area where all the condos are can be divided into 2 spaces. We simply put up a barrier and then it creates 2 separate spaces just in case cats don't get along. We never leave that barrier up overnight as it could possibly be knocked over and cause injury or harm. Typically we choose cats we absolutely know like each other to be left out overnight. We alternate cats so each one has a turn to be left out overnight. We wanted to share our philosophy on how we shelter animals here at the Humane Society of Sedona, and also our philosophy on how to safely socialize cats and get them ready for their loving homes. Now, most cats are not going to be this complicated, but we want to prepare you for the ones that are. Those hard cases that need a specialized team to help them find that loving home they so deserve. We do these trainings because we want to not only protect you, we want to protect the animal. Because let's be honest, in the end, the animal is going to be the one that suffers. This is why it's so important how we interact with these cats. We want these cats to trust us, we want them to feel safe, and we want them to feel comfortable. This ensures that they get that loving home they need. And this is why you are here. You are helping these animals find homes. You guys are so vital to our work. Thank you so much for your dedication. And of course, thank you for loving our cats as much as we do. Please, please always feel open to email me with any questions or concerns you may have. There are no dumb questions. There are no dumb concerns. So anything that's on your mind, please feel free to email me and talk about it. Or you can find me at the shelter and we can talk in person. Also, check out our YouTube where you will find other amazing cat behavior videos. P.S. I'm really sorry if you heard my cat purring in the background. Thank you so much for watching this training, and of course, thank you so much for volunteering with us at the Humane Society of Sedona.